Once upon a time, the universe was still silent. The world was raw and shapeless. Not a human voice was heard. Not a footprint was seen. One of the greatest moments of creation had not yet occurred. Then, God looked into this void and decided to create man. God took clay from the earth and carefully shaped it. Imagine every curve, every detail was crafted with divine care. It was not just a body, but a sacred work of art. But it was not yet finished. God approached the statue and breathed his own breath. At that moment, the lifeless soil came to life. Adam opened his eyes to the world. Adam's first home was the Garden of Eden, the very essence of paradise. Imagine trees overflowing with the sweetest fruit, clear rivers where birds sang, and a peaceful atmosphere at every step. The garden was a home that reflected the pure and perfect state of man. As Adam wandered through this paradise, God entrusted him with the garden. Treat this land, protect it, and use it, he said. But something was missing. Adam was alone. God saw Adam's loneliness and decided to create a wife for him. One day, Adam fell into a deep sleep. God created Eve from his rib. When Adam saw Eve, he was amazed by her beauty and presence. He was no longer alone. Eve was both his companion and his partner in fate. The test of paradise. Adam and Eve's life began with peaceful days in Eden. However, this paradise was not only a home for them, but also a testing ground. In the middle of the garden rose a tree, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. God ordered them not to approach this tree or taste its fruit. Although this seemed like a simple prohibition, it actually carried a much deeper meaning. The fine line between obedience and free will. Everything seemed fine, until that day came. One day, while Eve was walking in the garden, she heard a sly voice. The serpent wrapped itself around the tree's branches, whispering poisonous words. Why don't you taste this fruit? God has deprived you of this fruit because he does not want you to have its power. If you eat this fruit, you will know everything. Eve was tempted by the serpent. The fruit was as alluring as a shining jewel. She hesitated for a moment, but then she plucked the fruit and bit it. Adam followed Eve in the same way. At that moment, both their eyes were opened. Everything seemed different now. They began to understand good and evil, right and wrong, but the price would be high. Exile from paradise. When Adam and Eve realized the mistake they had made, they discovered something else. They were conscious of their nakedness. They quickly made coverings for themselves from leaves and tried to hide from God's presence. But God was seeing everything. As they walked through the garden, he called out to them, "Where are you?" Adam and Eve hid and confessed their crimes. God's wrath resulted in their exile from paradise. They would now leave Eden and begin living in a world full of difficulties. The soil would no longer yield fruit easily. Adam would sweat, and Eve would face the pains of childbirth. However, this exile was not just a punishment, it was also a new beginning. Humanity had now begun to chart its own path. Although they had moved away from the pure order of Eden, they would struggle in this world, grow, become stronger, and one day seek ways to return to God. The universality of the story. The story of Adam and Eve is not just a myth, it tells the universal story of humanity. This story shows how free will, responsibility, and mistakes are opportunities for growth. Similar stories can be found in different cultures. The creation epics of the Sumerians, the cosmic cycles of India, or the Prometheus legend in Greek mythology. All reflect the human effort to make sense of existence. Science and faith. common search for meaning. However, the story does not end there. Modern science also has a say in the origins of humanity. The theory of evolution explains the biological origins of humans. The story of Adam and Eve tells our spiritual origins. But could these two narratives complement each other? Perhaps evolution is part of God's creative process. Bringing these two approaches together can help us understand the mystery of being human more deeply. 1. Last question. The story of Adam and Eve is actually the story of all of us. The decisions we make in life, the responsibilities we take on, and the mistakes we make are modern echoes of this ancient story. What about you? If you were in the Garden of Eden, would you touch that fruit? Or would you choose to preserve the peace of heaven? Perhaps the power of this story lies in the fact that it reminds us over and over again of what it means to be human.